Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Tonight we're going to look at Spring Security 2022 because there are some big changes, and it's good changes. It makes much more sense. So I'm going through the basic authentication example, and it's going to be quite fast. I think so. But the change is actually there's an article that inspired me to do this video right here, and this article is from Spring's web page where they have this one. It says Spring Security without the Web Security Configure adapter. In the old days, we had to extend this Web Security configure adapter, and then we have to override a lot of methods to make everything work. But they have made it much more Spring-like. We just create beans instead of extending this class right here. And you can read this article yourself. I think it's quite interesting actually. And I'm going through the basic auth example right here. I've cheated a little bit, so I've already created a project and some code. I'll show you how I created the project, new projects. Then I chose Spring Initializer, that gave it a good name like basic auth, and this is compatibility with 19. I'm using Java 19, Maven, and of course building a jar, not war. Make jars, not wars. Then we have the Lombok right here, and then we have the Spring Web I've enabled, and then we need Spring Security, of course, Spring Security right there. And then I've enabled JPA, Spring Data JPA right there, and then I also enabled H2. I'm not going to use the database right now. It might be that if I create more videos with this project right here, then I already had a database connection. That's why I added those. So then I got this product right here, and I just got this application right here, and the application and project is named Spring Boot Security 2022, and I'm going to place it on my GitHub account as usual. Feel free to fork it and use it as usual. So the situation is that I have a space REST controller where I have two endpoints. One that says something with navigation, that this should only be accessible for the captain or the officers. Actually, in this situation, it's only the captains. There are many captains in the spaceship, and there's a role named captain. So it should only be captains that can actually see where we are going, and also the destination. Probably most people would know where we are going, but this is the setup that I made. And then we have the cantina, where they can actually tell the crew members what is the menu for today, and it is always right now microwave pizza. This should just require the crew member role. So this should be accessible for crews. This should not be accessible for crew members. That is the situation. And to solve this, I have set up a basic authentication class right here, and you can see I've annotated this with configuration. This is so the admin classes will be used, and let us read it from the bottom up actually. So right here we need to create a security filter chain, and we have a security filter chain right here, and this is you can probably recognize some of the they have actually the syntax right here with the HTTP that we have right here, and the authorize HTTP request. Then we have a lambda. So this is the new part, right? Now we are using lambdas instead of just adding stuff to the HTTP security builder or whatever it was in the old days. So now we're using lambdas, and we're actually just returning a bean just for the filter chain. So this is just to say which endpoint should require which roles. That's what we do right here. So we have all of the navigation endpoints. This is what I do right here. These should have the role, captain, and of course you can also use the hash roles with S, and then you can mention more roles if you want to. Then we have another role right here that we have another pattern. This is the cantina. So everything that starts with cantina needs the role crew. And of course I could also have added something that always would be permitted if you wanted to, but I don't want to. I want everybody to be authenticated to access this endpoint, right? So to access these endpoint in my REST API right here. I've added two lines that you will not find in the documentation per default, and this is because if you let's say that you have a React or Vue or Angular app in front, then you need to disable this the cross origin forgery token that Spring per default will actually create. or else it will actually expect to get that token along with it when we are doing posts. So if your posts don't work, then please check if you have if you set this. This is not unsecure. The next line right here, this enables cross-origin requests forgery, and the setup that we can set there. I have actually not set this up in this situation right here, but this just means that it would actually be it will actually be called, and if we have configured it, then it would actually be used. And then we have the role set up right here, and then we have HTTP basic, and then we are mentioning something that is a little bit weird right here. That is a customizer with defaults. The only thing that means that this means that it is a bit ugly if you just have a HTTP basic, then you can actually add a configure like this, and then what most people would do is they do not need any configuration. This is if you want to alter the input that you get. If you want to alter the user, maybe you wanted to prefix that with some prefix, or you wanted to add a realm, for instance, then you would do it right here. But most of the times these would be blank, or left out blank. So instead of doing that, then it just looks nicer with defaults. It means the same as actually having nothing in the lambda. So this is our filter chain. So you might know that there's a filter chain. This means that you can actually have multiple security filters, and this is just one of them that we have right here. This is one filter chain actually. This is actually our filter chain that we have right here. So it's a chain with multiple stuff being checked. This means that we could actually fail right here. We could fail right here. We could also fail on the on the roles, of course. So then next thing, of course, we want to create users and we want to create roles. How do we do that? It is quite easy with the new methods. It was also easy before, but it's even easier now. And of course, I could have placed this in different classes if I wanted to. I could have created a class named user and role service or something like that. And then I could have created a bean like this that had this in-memory user details manager. And of course, if you instead wanted to have your users in a database or with LDAP, then there are some awesome examples in the article that I just mentioned just before right here. Let me just scroll down. Look here, our LDAP authentication. Here we can see the old example where we're extending the web security configure data, and then we have the new example where you are just creating an authentication manager, and you give the LDAP manager the correct context and stuff like that, and some DN pattern. If you don't know what this I'm talking about now, then it's okay. That is LDAP specific. And if you want to create if you want to have all of your users in the database, then you just go look at the JDBC authentication. It is so easy to set it up now with this new setup. It's much better than the old one. I did not like the extending that weird adapter class and then overriding something sometimes and then overriding something else some other times. This makes more sense, right? This is more Spring. We are creating beans, and when we have those beans in our context, then our application it acts differently, of course. So here we're creating some in-memory users. And here we have two users right here. We have one that's named Mike, and I use the builder. If you read the official documentation, then there's actually an error, I would say, because it says that you should use the with default password encoder, because that has been deprecated. So do not do that. I'll show you how to get around that instead. Just call builder and then set the username, and then when you come to the password, you need to encode the password manually, like this, encoder.encode, and then you encode your password with the bcrypt, bcrypt password encoder, which is part of the Spring Security. You can see this actually in this package right here. So, and what does this password encoder do? It will generate a random salt, and then it will encrypt this string, the text message I have right here, the password, so it can actually not be picked up later on and then decrypted. It cannot be decrypted, but you can take a password. You can take the password right here, and then you can encrypt it again, and then you can compare those two strings, and then you can see that the person that actually came with the password, that was actually the correct one. So it is to give a bit of security to your application. You should always you should never store clear text passwords in your database either. You should encrypt them with You could encrypt with something else where you have a key. That's actually the most normal thing that you would actually use another. You would go find your own password encoder, and then you would actually give it some kind of key. Maybe when your application starts up, then it will ask for a key, or maybe you will have your key somewhere else. Maybe it's on a server in a file somewhere, or maybe an environment variable. That's totally up to you, but it needs that key to encrypt and decrypt. Actually, just encrypt passwords, because it does not need to decrypt them ever. You just need to encrypt them and then compare whatever you get sent with the value that is actually in your database, or in this case in your memory. So this is memory, right? So that is why I am encrypting this password right here. And of course I can see the password right here, but if I created more users on the fly into my memory user details manager, then I would only, whenever I got this password right here, then I would encode it, and then I would just throw away the clear text, right? So so that is the idea with the password encoder. Roles right here, I can add as many roles as I want to, and I can just invent them. I do not need to create them any place else. So this just means that I have 2 strings roles right here. So that is how the security role system actually work. When I do this, then there will actually be, I think it will actually create something like role underscore capital in the inside its own system. That's how it handles. That's how it actually handles it. But that does not matter for us. We will just create the roles. So I have a captain role, a crew role right here. Then I have another user right here. That is the Henrik one, and he only has the crew role right here. And his password is the same importance. It's just so because I'm lazy, so I don't need to think about 2 passwords. So username Henrik with capital H. Username Mike with capital Mike. Yeah, that's actually not good. Let's make lowercase, right? So lowercase Henrik, lowercase Mike. And then we built the users, and then we return a new in-memory user details manager, and we created the password encoder right here. That was incredible. It's just a new instance of bcrypt password encoder. Okay, Mike, you have talked a lot. Does it work or does it not work? How do we test it? First of all, we can start it up by just pressing the play button right there. Oh, one more thing before we start up. Okay, I just want to say that I have actually enabled logging. Whenever you want to debug your Spring Security, set this to debug, or maybe trace even. You can set this to trace also, and then you get some information that can actually help you, directing you to the to where the problem could be. It will actually print out which roles this person that actually tried to log in had. It will not print out passwords, for instance. So when you're dealing with security and when you're trying to debug security, it can be a bit difficult sometimes, because it also needs to be secure. So there are some things that will not be put into the console right here. So that's our situation. So now our application is actually started up. How can I test it? I will test it by creating a .http file. If you use IntelliJ, then there's something called HTTP client right here. And and that can actually understand .http files. If you want to use curl, you can use curl. If you want to use Postman, you just use Postman. So I'll create a new file. I already have 2 files right here, but let us just create a new file right here. So I want to test the application like this, .http. I just want to show how I generate them. Look, then I write get, because the method is get, so you always put that first. And then you have the URL as the second part, and here you get code completion. That's quite awesome, right? So here you can see I have localhost. What else do I have? Okay, there's something called navigation and destination. Whoa, okay. Of course, I just forgot HTTP in front. That was a little bit annoying, because you can actually run HTTPS if you want to on another port than 443. You can decide that yourself. But that's a whole other story. I will try to keep the context right here and the scope. So here we have this. Then I need to add something like accepts. I could add the accept. I could also just ignore that actually. And what I cannot ignore. This is the header that I'm creating right here. The second line is the header. You can have as many headers, of course, you want. But I want an authorization, because this is basic authentication. Then I write basic right here. And now I need to write the name. For instance, Mike. Okay. For instance, first I will actually write Henrik, and then I'll write important, because Henrik is not allowed to to see this, to see destination, he's not allowed to actually access anything with navigation in the URL. So, but I need to base 64 encode this. How do I do that? You will probably, then you just write a small test that can base 64 encoded, or you can go out on the internet to base 64 encoded. No, I would tell you, just install a plugin for IntelliJ named base64 helper. There's actually multiple versions of them, but I like this base64 helper right here. Install that, because then you can just mark the string that you want to base64 encode, right click, base64 helper, thank you very much, encode. Whoa, that's almost like magic, right? It just got 64, base64 encoded, right? Whoa, so I don't have to go to the internet, I don't have to create a small unit test that does this, or maybe I don't have to go to my Linux terminal to base64 encode the string. I just right click. Whoa, okay, that was fast. That was amazing, right? So now we press play right here to see what happens. So what happened right here, we get a lot of this is our return code. We get status forward 3, that means forbidden. That is a HTTP code for when we're not allowed. So that's a security error. We get it right there. And we can see all of the things right here. Content type, application JSON. That's actually not true because it's just a string that we're returning, but this is what Spring Boot automatically adds to it. Okay, so that was Henrik. That's not good. Let us just go to authorization, and then we're gonna write basic. This time I'll write Mike : important password again. Oh, how do I base 64 encode that? And by Mike, you just told us that you had a helper to do that. Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. So let's just do that again. Then I press play. Let's see this time. Oh, now I know the destination of the spaceship. It's going to Mars. Quite awesome, right? Quite cool. Quite specific. Quite concise. This is one of the best video I've made in a long time. I would say so. Because there have not been any errors yet. So that's quite cool. And we got response code 200 right there. It's always good to be humble and to evaluate yourself in an objective manner. Yeah, so this is actually it. So you can actually see that it actually works. And of course, if we try to log on, if we did not have the authorization header on at all, or if we gave a wrong username and password, then we are still allowed. We should not be allowed. Still get this Mars. I think I've made an error. Okay. I was too fast with saying that this was actually. I think I made an error actually, because let's just say I'll say basic. Then I'll say Susan and then some password. Base 64 code. I think I forgot to say that you need to be authenticated. Yeah, so now I get the error, but if I totally leave it out, now I get a 4-1, that means that I'm not, yeah. So, okay, but if I remove the authentication, then I'm not authenticated at all. Or what happens right there? Is it because it's an old... Something fishy is going on. Okay, let me just enable this again. I think it's a HTTP client that actually tricks me a little bit. So now it's Mars. Then I comment out Mars. Is it because these... does this mean anything? Let me just remove that. Press play. Still 4-1. Okay, so that's actually good. I think actually it works actually as expected. I was just thinking it was just a client that actually was teaching me a bit right there. You see when I don't have anything on, when I don't have any header, then it says 4-1, which is the correct status code right there. 4-1 deny. And oh, one more thing. I would like to show you the... Yeah, okay, here it is. The output right here did not store anonymous security context. Yes, this is exactly what we want to see in the log. This is the debug log, and if you enable the trace log, then we'll just try with a user that does not exist. Let's try Susan again, and then some password right there. And let us say 64. In code, let us press run. Let's see what happens now. Now we've got an error right there. That's fine. Bad credentials. So it actually logs what was actually wrong right here, bad credentials, and that's totally right because there's no Susan. I failed to find user Susan. So it is yeah, definitely enable this logging before you start playing with security and all, I would say, because yeah, at least on your own development environment, when you sit and develop and when you create these security setups, because it is quite complex and this is actually quite concise, it's quite exact what is going on. It could not find Susan, and let us try the other situation where we tried with the crew member Henrik there and an important. We know that Henrik exists, but he doesn't have the he only have the crew role. So let us just say this. Then we press play, and forbidden. Then we'll go to the server, and then we can see what do we get right here. Yeah, here we got it actually, Henrik. So there we actually got it. Security. Here's the token principal user. It finds a principal right there, and the principal that is just who's trying to log in. That is the user right there, and here we actually get a string representation. We get the username right there. We get the password. Look, it's protected. We cannot see it. It's because it's yeah, that's quite smart. That's quite smart. And we get the role. We can see right here. Henrik only has this role right here. Role underscore crew, and then we get granted authorities. Role underscore. Yeah, look here. This is what I meant with the authorities. Spring actually automatically adds role underscore, and then the role that we placed ourselves in the user detail manager. So, and then we can actually see in the next line that then we can see down here that we got a 4.3, and 4.3 is forbidden. So this means that user exists and it was actually authenticated. It was actually it existed and it was the right password, but it did not. It is not allowed to access that. So this is how to debug actually. So if you see 4.3, means that the user did not. It does exist, but try to check out the roles if the user actually have enough roles. That's what you should do. I think I've already, and I have those examples there actually right there, but they are a bit wrong. Now they are a bit wrong credentials actually. So I think I will delete these two right here. And you can also add more requests by pressing plus, get requests. So now we actually have two get requests. And again, we can use code completion to say that now we also want to check the cantina menu today like this. Except, this was the one I was looking for actually. Except the want application/JSON. I know it's only string that we are getting returned, but that's okay. Then we take authorization, and then here we say, again, we say important. How long we don't ever need to have basic in front. Important like this. Important. And then right click, base 64 encoded. Let's just see what happens now. Menu today, microwave pizza. Quite cool. And response code 200, that means okay. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.